In this lesson, we're going to run through a 3-step process for finding your first paying clients. Okay, so I'm assuming here that you have already selected a skill that you can freelance online. If you haven't done that, refer back to the previous lesson, the hedgehog lesson, and make sure you do that first. Okay, so you should have selected that skill and hopefully have developed that skill to the point where you can deliver real value to clients. You don't have to be the world's best expert on it. Okay, you just have to be able to provide value to clients, and often you can do that after even just a week of study and practice. Okay, now if you're not at that point yet, just keep practicing your skills. Okay, because you can't really fake it till you make it. You do need to be good at what you do. Some people practice too much. Okay, so if you are a bit of a perfectionist, you're probably going to leave it too long, so try and compensate for that. Okay, you can probably start working for clients and finding clients earlier than you think. All right, so you know your own personality. If you tend to procrastinate too much versus if you tend to dive in a little too soon. So act accordingly. All right. Okay, so assuming though you are ready to find your first clients, let's run through this 3-step process. So the 3 steps are, number 1, tap your existing network. Number 2, in-person networking. And number 3, find freelance gigs online. And we're going to go through those one at a time. These are in a particular order, by the way. Okay, so number 1, tap your existing network. This is what I recommend you do first. It's the easiest way to find your first paying clients. So here's how it works. Online and offline, tell your friends, family, acquaintances, whoever, people who know and trust you already, that you're offering the service you've chosen. This is the easiest way to find your first paying client because you don't have to build a relationship from scratch. You're reaching out to people who already know and like and trust you. They are much more likely to hire you than some stranger on the internet. Okay? Now, you could just let your existing network know about your service via a status update on Facebook. And you can do that, all right? People have had success with that. Actually, I recommend you do that as well. But it's a bit too passive, all right? A lot of people just do that and then they don't get many replies and they're like, yeah, it didn't really work. Don't be passive, all right? You need to be active. You need to be a go-getter, all right? You're a badass online entrepreneur, so you need to get after it. So here's how I recommend you proceed, all right? You want to do 2 things. You want to make a list of everyone you're on good terms and or in frequent contact with, okay? So you don't want to be messaging people who haven't heard from you in months, all right? So make a list of everyone you're on good terms with or you're in frequent contact with and or you're in frequent contact with. Then, second thing, reach out to each person on that list individually, tell them what you're doing now, and ask if they know of anyone who could use your service, okay? Here's an example of an email I would send to let someone know about my web design services. Now, I'm not going to read all that out. It's there in the article that accompanies this video, so you can go through it yourself. But I want to just point out a couple of things there. So you'll notice that I said, can you think of anyone who might require help building a website? And if so, would you be willing to connect me with them? And of course, building a website is just an example. Maybe you would say, can you think of anyone who might require some articles written for them or content that I could write for them or proofreading or editing, whatever it is, okay? So you ask them that question. So note there that I didn't say something like, if you hear of anyone looking for a web designer, please let me know. Or please keep me in mind if you hear of anyone looking for a web designer. Those requests are just too passive, all right? They're unlikely to yield a helpful response or lead to a job opportunity. If someone sends me something like that, say, hey, if you hear of anyone looking for a web designer, please let me know. If I get that in an email, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll let you know. Archive. Never think about it again, right? It's too passive. You're not asking them to do anything. So you have to think to yourself, what do you want the person to actually do? What action do you want them to take? And ideally, you want them to first stop and think about who they know that might be looking for a web designer, okay? And second thing is you want them to go ahead and introduce you to the people they think of. Okay, now the best way to get them to do those things is to ask directly, which is why I phrase it as, can you think of anyone who might require help building a website? And if so, would you be willing to connect me with them? Now, I should reiterate that this kind of request is only suitable for people you're already in frequent contact with. Okay, if you send it to an old colleague you barely interact with on Facebook and you haven't seen in years, they're going to think, oh, I see how it is. He only messages me when he wants something. Way to make me feel like a special snowflake. Right? So you don't want to reach out to people like that. Send it to people you're in frequent contact with already. All right? You don't want to be sending a message out of the blue and be like, hey, remember we met in Cancun 7 years ago and I hit on your girlfriend? Yeah, and we're still connected on Facebook. Do you know anybody that can give me a job? That can send me work? Right? They're going to be like, screw that guy. Right? So don't do that. Lastly, follow up. All right, so you should follow up with everyone a week or two after you make your request and ask them again. Right? Some people are busy and they'll simply forget. Other people won't take you seriously until you ask a second or even a third time. So you need to keep asking. I even have a rule now because I get quite busy with a lot of different projects, and if somebody emails and asks me something, I'll usually wait till they ask me again before I take them seriously, right? Because it's just a way to weed out who's really serious. Sometimes they'll say, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. I'd be willing to do that. Can you follow up with me in 2 weeks and remind me? Because I'm quite busy right now. A lot of people don't bother following up, right? Even when I ask them to, they don't follow up. And so I'm like, I guess they weren't that serious. Make sure you follow up. And here's a template you can use for your follow-ups, and that's in the article as well. So that is the first way and the easiest way to find your first clients. People in my course have done this and have found my clients just immediately, right? It's the simplest, easiest thing to do. Tap your existing network. You don't have to start from scratch with this stuff, all right? So that's number one. Number two, in-person networking. So what we're going to do is we're going to go out into the wild, all right? Into the wild, and we're going to find more prospective clients. Now, before we get stuck into this, I should say that, of course, this means that you actually get out and meet people face to face. It's offline, right? I know we want to build an online business, but meeting people offline, face to face, is the most reliable way to make an impression when you're just starting out. Okay, so we'll complement this by looking for work online in step 3 in a second. But this step comes first. This in-person networking comes first because it's much more likely to get you results. Now, of course, if you live in a very remote area, obviously you're not going to be able to get out and network as much as someone living in a big city. And if that is truly the case, you may want to skip this step. All right, it may not be applicable to you. But please don't skip it just because you're not very social or you're introverted. Business, as a friend of mine, Tom McCann, says, I interviewed him for my course, business is a social game. It really is a social game. Okay, the person with the most relationships, the best relationships, those people win big in business. All right, so keep that in mind. If you're not very social, you can learn to be social, okay? And you don't have to do it very often, but it is an essential business skill. Think of it as an actual skill. I used to be the shyest person I knew. Seriously, I was the shyest person I knew, not social at all, and now I've just made myself into someone who is very social. I'd actually consider myself introverted. A bit on that spectrum, I'm more introverted than extroverted. But I can go into a room now, into a networking event, and I can, not knowing anybody, and I can have a great time, connect with people, come away with a lot of good contacts for people that I may end up doing business with later. You can do the same. If I can do it, you can totally do it. All right, so don't be put off if your social skills aren't very strong or you're a bit introverted, all right? Okay, so first thing you should do, you want to start attending the meetups of existing groups and audiences in your area. Now, business-focused groups that have some connection to your industry are ideal, but the main thing is to just get out there and start making connections, all right? Just start being social. Let people know who you are and what you do. And here are some ways you can find such meetups. Links and extra notes are in the article. Now, what I like to do personally once per week, usually on a Sunday, is to go through that list and add any event I want to attend to my calendar for that week. So I look through those things and see what's happening this week, wherever I'm at, okay? And I'll add interesting events I want to attend to my calendar for that week. And sometimes if I'm not sure I'll be available, or if I might just want to take a night off and stay home and watch Netflix, I'll just put a question mark, but I'll still put it in the calendar to make sure that I don't forget that that's happening. Now, once you have a few events picked out each week, your next step is to actually attend a few, okay? You don't have to go to a lot. Even if you did one event a week, that's big, right? And mix it up a bit so you're not just going to the same event every week. Okay, so that's how you find events. And actually, by the way, I should mention as well, this isn't in the article, but you don't have to go to special events just to do what I'm about to tell you now. All right, you can just start chatting to people when you're at a cafe. All right, when you're at the hairdressers, when you're on the bus, just start talking to people. All right, especially business owners. If you can start having more conversations with business owners, you're going to get more business. Simple as that. Okay, so what do you do at an event? How do you handle yourself at an event, or when you're talking to a business owner? If you strike up a conversation with somebody at a bar, even, right? So first thing I want to say is what you should not do. Let's talk about that first, okay? And I'm going to give you some words here from Brennan Dunn. And he says, when attending a networking event, the last thing you want to do is sell. You're not there to land a new client. You kind of are, but you're not really, okay? So don't think of yourself as being there to like land a new client. Those who are fluent in the networking circle know that type, and they treat them as an anathema. Anathema? Yeah, I think I'm pronouncing that word right. Okay, so just to emphasize that, two things. You're not there to sell, okay? You are, but don't treat it like that, okay? And second, you're not there to land a new client, okay? So don't try and sell. Don't be on the lookout for a new client, rubbernecking everywhere. What you're there to do really is think of it like this. You're there to have a good time, all right? You're there to meet interesting people, enjoy yourself, and really you're there to make new friends, right? Think of it like that. You're there to make new friends. Business is a social game. People work with people they like, okay? That's who they want to work with. So you're really just there to make friends. So how do you do that, okay? I'm going to give you 4 rules of thumb for that. So, number 1, in advance of the event, do some research on who's going to be there. So meetup.com, for example, shows you who has RSVP'd for each event. See if there's anyone in particular you'd like to meet and have some talking points ready for them. Or just general talking points about the venue, for example, something that happened recently in the news. Just you don't want to be stuck for something to say, especially if there's someone in particular you want to go talk to. So do a little prep work up front. Number 2, at the very least, if you're tight on time, at least do some research on the person who's organizing the event. Okay, so be sure to introduce yourself to them when you get there. Thank them sincerely when you leave. Thank them for organizing the event. You want to make a positive impression on them because they are usually very well connected and they can introduce you to many more people. Okay? Number 3, take a genuine interest in the people you meet at each event. Okay, so get them talking about themselves and what they're working on, all right? What they're interested in. And your goal should be to make 2 or 3 good connections, right? You don't really want to be buzzing around the room, spending 15 seconds with every person there. You don't have to meet every person there. Even one good conversation at a meetup event, brilliant, you've done your job, all right? Fourth thing is you want to offer value. Now, an easy and effective way to do that is to ask the magic question. And you ask the magic question whenever you hear someone mention a problem they're having that you can help solve, all right? And you can kind of steer the conversation towards that, all right? To just find out what they're struggling with at the moment. Is there anything in your business that they're struggling with? And you can then see if that aligns with the service that you offer, all right? And then you ask the magic question. The magic question is, would you like some help with that, right? Oh, that's really interesting. Would you like some help with that? Now, assuming you use that when it's appropriate, you pull out that question when it's appropriate, it's a fantastic one to ask, all right? Because it responds to a legitimate problem the other person is having. They just told you. And it opens the door to a conversation about the helpful service or services that you have to offer. Okay, so if you do it right, they'll often say, oh, you can help with that? Tell me more. And then you're into a conversation like, oh yeah, well I have this editing and proofreading business. So, I mean, if it's a real problem for you when you're publishing these papers that there's a bunch of typos and you don't have time to spend proofreading them, I could totally help you with that. I could take that off your hands. Let's sit down and have a conversation about it. How about coffee next week? Doesn't have to be any more difficult than that, okay? Pretty simple, straightforward. You're providing a ton of value to them. They'll be like, oh yeah, that sounds great, okay? Sit down and have coffee with them. Make sure you can actually help them. Tell them, these are my rates, okay? So that's the magic question. That's how you conduct yourself at an event. Next thing we want to talk about is what to do after an event, all right? So there's 2 quick things you can do immediately after an event. First, you can win major points with the organizer by writing a review of the event, Okay, now that's very easy to do on sites like meetup.com, or you can post something on your personal blog. That's probably the best thing to do, or Facebook, or maybe you make a little video about it. Okay, it doesn't have to be a big thing though. Keep it simple, and you can link or tag people as appropriate on Facebook, for example, or on your blog. So you should write about the venue, how many people were there, what big benefit or takeaway you got from the event, and what actions it inspired. Those are the big things. Okay, tell people what you got out of it. People love hearing that. Second thing you can do after the event, jot down the names of the people you met and interacted with, and make a quick note about each of them. Okay, this will help you remember who each person is and what you talked about. And I do this in the Notes app in my phone. I don't have my phone with me right now, and I do that after an event if I've met, especially if I met a lot of people and I'm unlikely to remember the names. And it's really great for helping me remember who's who. And I can look over it quickly right before the next networking event where I'm likely to see those same people. All right, and people will be like, oh wow, you remembered my name. And little did I know that I just basically wrote it down, because otherwise you don't remember names, okay? And it's a simple little thing to do, and it makes a big impression on people, okay? If they remember nothing else about you, they don't even remember you the first time, they'll remember you the second time because you remembered them. And then they'll feel like, oh, I should take more notice of this person, okay? So simple little thing makes a big difference. Okay, so those are two quick things you can do immediately after an event. Beyond that, you'll want to follow up and keep in touch with the key people you met at these events. And by key people, I mean the people you would enjoy working with in the future. All right, those are the key people. It doesn't actually matter if you can't think of a way you might be able to work with them in the future. That's fine. You might be a big data specialist. They might be a retired farmer. That's cool. As long as you got along well and enjoyed each other's company, add them to your list of key people and stay in touch. Even if you never end up working together on a project, they could well send some clients your way, or just simply become a good friend, right? That's great too. That makes your life better. Okay, it's not all about close, sell, business. Someone you genuinely like interacting with, get them in your life, right? Expand your social circle, spend more time with these people. Makes your life better. Now, how do you stay in touch? Okay, here are a few ideas. Number one, how many ideas do I have here? 4, okay? So first one, add them to a custom friends list on Facebook. Okay, now I have a link to exactly how you do that, but basically it's a instead of seeing your newsfeed with everybody's updates in it, you can have a kind of a custom newsfeed, which is called a list, and you can check in and see only the updates of your key people. Okay, so I did this myself, and it lets me easily keep up with what's going on in the lives of my key people, and I can leave a comment or drop them a private message whenever they post something particularly interesting. You can do something similar to that on social networks like LinkedIn or Twitter as well. Okay, and there's links to how to do that in the article. Another thing you can do, number 2, subscribe to their mailing lists. Okay, if they have a mailing list or a newsletter online, some people do. It depends what circle you're in, what industry you're in, but a lot of people will. Okay, especially if they work online too. So sign up for their newsletter, for their email list, and keep an eye on the emails they send out, looking for opportunities to add value or just an excuse to say hello and stay in touch base, right? What I do, and there's a link to this as well, I set up a filter in Gmail, all right? And that puts all emails I receive from my key people, puts them into a special VIP folder, and then I can batch process that once or twice a day. So that basically keeps their emails separate, and it's easy to go through them, all right? Because you don't want them falling in with all the other common people emails. I'm kidding. But it just makes it easier to keep an eye on them. Third thing you can do, invite them out for lunch or coffee, right? Nothing fancy, just drop them a message, say that you enjoyed meeting them and would love to treat them for lunch or coffee sometime, right? Just say, it's on me, would love to chat more. Cool. If you offer to buy someone lunch or coffee, usually they're in, okay? If they say no, say, okay, no worries, maybe another time. Follow up with them in a couple of weeks or a month, ask them again. If they keep saying no, they probably don't want to be your friend. Okay, so it's time to move on. But a lot of people will say yes. Keep doing this enough, you'll get them in your life, in your circle. Next thing, and this is the last one, invite them to join an activity you already have planned. Okay, so ask yourself, are there other meetups you plan to attend that they might also find interesting? And if so, invite them along. You'll be helping them meet more interesting people while getting to spend more time with them yourself. So you're adding value there as well. And you have the added bonus of, well, you're killing two birds with the one stone, right? So especially if you're very busy and you don't have a lot of time to meet new people, invite new people along to things you're doing already. Like, oh, hey, I usually go for a run Saturday mornings. Are you a runner? Would you like to come along? It'd be great to just run and we can have a chat, right? Invite them along to things you're going to do already. Don't have to like pack your schedule every free moment meeting up with these people. Okay, so those are 4 things you can do for staying in touch. Whew, let's move on. What do I want to say? The goal of all of that is to give you more opportunities to see where you can add value, okay, to these people's lives, and ultimately ask that magic question we talked about earlier, which is, would you like some help with that? Would you like some help with that? Now, if you keep doing that, you'll inevitably be surrounded by lots of interesting people with problems they will happily pay you to solve. All right? So just keep doing that. Okay, number 3, find freelance gigs online. Okay, this is the 3rd way of finding your first clients. Okay, and I recommend you don't do this first or second, you do a 3rd. And I want you to be honest now. Did you skip everything else? Or were you just ignoring everything else, half listening, and just waiting for this part, right? And it's tempting to do that because the things I just talked about, those first 2 steps, tapping your existing network, in-person networking, they require you to put yourself out there, all right? But the reason I list those steps first is because you're much more likely to find clients via those methods, much more likely than just hunting around online for new clients. The thing is though, most freelancers don't want to put themselves out there, okay? They don't want to write personalized emails or make direct requests or attend real events or meet people face to face. They'd much rather hide behind their computer screens and send out tons of generic pitches via online job sites. Much less chance of rejection that way. Unfortunately, there's also much less chance of success. So that's not to say that you can't find work solely via the internet. Of course you can, right? And I actually show you exactly how to do that in what I call the Client Finder Blueprint. Okay, so the Client Finder Blueprint is a tried and tested pitch and win formula for freelancers. Basically details how to find clients both online and offline. Dives deeper on everything we've just been talking about here. And it has email templates, examples of successful pitches, interviews with successful freelancers, all of that stuff. So if you want to learn more about that, click here and you will go to a page with more information on it. In the meantime, do yourself a favor and send out at least 3 personalized emails like I recommended at the start of this video, okay, using that template that I shared with you. And try to find, so that's one thing, do that. Second thing, try to find at least 1 in-person event that you can attend in the next week, all right? Please do that for yourself, invest in yourself, okay, take action. Go and do that. 90% of the people who are watching this video, reading the article, they probably won't do that. And those are the same people who are going to struggle to build their online business. So I want you to be one of the few people who takes action and makes things happen. Okay? All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got something out of it. And I'll see you in the next one.